Emily Carter had trained herself not to expect much from life, and on that cold December evening she believed it would be no different, yet the night moved fast, as if time itself wanted to push her towards something she had avoided for years. Because when she leaned against her apartment window in a quiet Portland neighborhood, watching snow fall in a steady rush over parked cars and glowing houses, her thoughts were not about hope or love but about routine, bills, and another year ending. Without surprise, and she was ready to turn away when her eyes caught movement across the street and her breath stalled, because standing under a porch light was her neighbor Jack Miller, a man she barely knew beyond polite nods and shared silence, now dressed as Santa Claus in a way that did not feel silly or fake but calm and real, the red coat fitting him naturally, the white beard neat, his posture steady like he belonged there, and the sight hit her harder than she expected, stirring a sharp ache. She had learned to keep quiet since her engagement had ended 2 winters ago, an ending that taught her dreams were unreliable things that asked for trust and paid back with loss, so she told herself this moment meant nothing, just a neighbor in costume, just a holiday act, but her heart argued otherwise as Jack laughed with someone off-screen, his voice warm even from a distance, and Emily felt pulled into a memory of who she used to be, someone who believed December carried magic. Someone who once waited for surprises, and the snow seemed to fall faster as if echoing her thoughts, and when Jack turned slightly, adjusting his gloves, he looked up, straight toward her window, not searching, not guessing, but seeing her clearly, and the moment locked them in a shared pause that felt too personal to be accidental, Emily's pulse racing as she stepped back quickly, embarrassed by how seen she felt, her mind rushing through excuses she did not need, because Jack could not possibly know what she was thinking, yet she stood frozen for a second longer, leaning against the cold glass, wondering why this simple moment felt heavier than it should, wondering why a man dressed as Santa had cracked open something she believed was closed. And the night moved on without waiting for her answers as laughter drifted away, doors closed, lights dimmed, but Emily stayed awake long after. The image burned into her thoughts, not the costume itself but the calm kindness in Jack's face, the way he seemed fully present, and she tried to remind herself she did not believe in signs, did not believe dreams could come true, and yet something inside her whispered that this night had shifted the path slightly, just enough to be dangerous. And when morning came too soon she stepped outside to clear her car, the world brightened fast with fresh snow, and there he was again, no costume now, just Jack in a winter coat, shoveling with quick, steady movements, his face red from the cold, and he smiled when he saw her, not wide or forced, just easy, like he had been waiting for the moment to happen naturally, and they exchanged a few simple words that passed quickly, yet Emily felt the same pull again, stronger this time, like a quiet question following her all the way to work, and by the time evening arrived she had almost convinced herself she imagined the weight of it all, until a knock came at her door, sudden and sharp, and when she opened it Jack stood there holding a small box of cookies, explaining in a simple voice that they were leftovers from a neighborhood visit, that he hated wasting things, that he hoped it was okay, and Emily stepped aside without thinking, inviting him in, the moment moving too fast to analyze, and inside her warm living room they talked without effort, words flowing quickly but gently, about work, about the town, about how he volunteered every year as Santa because it made people smile when they needed it most, and Emily listened, noticing how he never rushed his thoughts, how he looked at her when she spoke, not scanning the room, not distracted, and she felt herself forgetting to guard her heart, just for minutes at a time, and when he left, standing in the doorway with snow clinging to his boots, he hesitated before asking if she wanted to walk with him the next evening, just around the block, no pressure, and Emily felt the weight of her past pull against the quiet hope rising in her chest, fear moving fast as snow began to fall again, and she stood there watching him leave, knowing the night she saw her neighbor dressed as Santa had already changed something. Whether she was ready or not, Emily did not answer Jack right away, and the silence between his question and her response stretched longer than she expected, because part of her wanted to say yes without thinking while the other part moved fast to protect her from mistakes she had already lived through, so she smiled politely and told him she would think about it, closing the door with her heart beating too hard for such a simple exchange, and that night passed quickly but not quietly, her thoughts racing through old memories of promises made and broken, of a future once planned and then taken away, and by morning she reminded herself that she had rebuilt her life carefully for a reason, Yet the pace of the days that followed did not slow, because Jack became present in small, unavoidable ways, waving when they crossed paths, holding doors open, offering short conversations that felt easy and unforced, and Emily noticed how different this felt from past connections that rushed or demanded too much, but still she kept her guard high, knowing how hope could sneak in quietly and cause damage later. And when Friday evening arrived, she found herself standing by the window again, watching the street fill with early winter darkness, wondering if Jack would be outside, wondering why she cared, and when she saw him waiting near the sidewalk with his hands in his coat pockets, she felt the decision make itself before fear could stop it, and she stepped outside, the cold air sharp and clean, and Jack smiled like he had not doubted her choice for a second, and they walked quickly, not lingering, the pace matching the rush of thoughts in Emily's head, talking about light topics at first, work stress, holiday plans that did not exist, small complaints about winter, but as they moved under the glow of streetlights the conversation deepened naturally, Jack sharing stories about volunteering, about children who looked at him like Santa was real even if life had taught them otherwise, and Emily listened closely, feeling a familiar ache of longing she thought she had buried, and without meaning to she spoke about her past, not in detail, but enough for the weight to be clear, explaining how love once felt safe until it suddenly was not, how trust became something she handled carefully, and Jack did not interrupt or try to fix it, he simply listened, nodding slowly, his expression calm and steady, and that made Emily feel lighter than she expected, because she was not being judged or rushed, just heard, and they reached the end of the block faster than she realized, the walk feeling too short for how much had passed between them, and Jack stopped near a tall pine tree lit with simple white lights, pulling a Santa hat from his bag and holding it loosely, explaining that he carried it as a reminder, not of pretending, but of believing kindness mattered, and Emily laughed softly, surprised by how much warmth that simple gesture brought her, but as the moment stretched, her phone buzzed sharply in her pocket, breaking the calm, and when she glanced at the screen and saw a name she had not expected, fear moved fast through her chest, tightening her breath, and she stepped back slightly, apologizing quickly and saying she needed to go, leaving Jack standing there with concern in his eyes, and Emily walked home fast, the night suddenly colder, her past rushing back without warning, reminding her why she had promised herself not to believe too quickly, and over the next few days she avoided Jack, not out of dislike, but out of confusion, replaying their walk in her mind while ignoring the message that still sat unanswered, and the pace of her thoughts stayed fast, her emotions tangled between comfort and fear, until she realized that what unsettled her most was not Jack himself but how safe he made her feel without trying, and that scared her more than loneliness ever had, because safety made it easier to hope, and hope made loss hurt more, and when she finally gathered the courage to face him again, knocking on his door one quiet evening, her heart raced faster than before, unsure of what she would say or what he would think, but when Jack opened the door his expression was gentle, not distant, not upset, and Emily spoke quickly, explaining her silence, her fear, her hesitation to trust something that felt good, and Jack listened again, steady as always, telling her simply that he did not want to be something she feared, that he wanted to be real, and those words stayed with her long after she left, because for the first time in years she wondered if protecting herself had cost her something important. And as snow fell quietly outside and the holiday lights blinked on, Emily stood at her window again, understanding that part 2 of her story was not about falling in love but about standing at the edge of belief, unsure whether she would step forward or turn away, knowing either choice would change her path. Emily spent the next few days moving through life quickly, as if speed could keep her from thinking too deeply, waking early, working late, filling silence with noise, but the quiet always returned, bringing Jack's calm voice and steady eyes back into her thoughts, and the message from her past still sat unread, a reminder of a chapter she had tried to close without fully healing, and one evening, unable to stand the tension anymore, she decided to face what scared her instead of running, pulling on her coat and stepping into the cold night with purpose, her breath sharp in her lungs as snow drifted lightly, and she walked straight to Jack's door, knocking before doubt could stop her, and when he opened it he looked surprised but relieved, as if he had hoped she would come, and she spoke fast, not wanting to lose courage, telling him about the message, about how her past had a way of reaching back just when she felt safe again, about how she did not want to disappear without honesty, and Jack listened closely, letting her words land without pressure, and he told her gently that he understood fear, that everyone carried something heavy, and that hope was not about ignoring pain but choosing to move forward anyway. And they talked longer than she expected, the conversation moving fast yet deep, covering regrets, missed chances, quiet dreams, and the strange ways life brought people together. And when Emily left that night she felt lighter, not because everything was solved, but because she had stopped running, and the days that followed moved quickly toward Christmas, the neighborhood filling with lights, music, and shared moments, and Jack and Emily began crossing paths more often, sometimes planned, sometimes accidental, quick walks, shared coffee, small talks that slowly grew more personal. And Emily noticed how Jack never pushed for more than she was ready to give, never rushed her heart, and that patience made her trust him more than grand gestures ever could. And one evening Jack invited her to join him at the shelter where he volunteered, saying she did not have to dress up or stay long, just to see what he loved about it, and Emily agreed, unsure but curious, and the night moved fast as they drove through snowy streets, arriving at a warm building filled with laughter and soft chaos, children running, volunteers moving quickly, and when Jack put on the Santa suit Emily saw him transform, not into someone else, but into the truest version of himself, kind, present, fully engaged, and she watched as he listened to each child, speaking gently, laughing easily, making each one feel seen, and something inside her shifted. Because she realized this was not an act or a costume, this was who Jack was, someone who believed in showing up even when life was hard. And as the night went on Emily found herself helping, smiling, laughing, forgetting her fears for a while. And when they stepped back into the cold air later, both tired and quiet, the world felt different, fuller, and they walked without speaking much, the silence comfortable, and under a streetlight Jack stopped, pulling off the Santa hat and holding it loosely, saying he used to think believing was childish until life taught him that hope was a choice. And Emily felt tears rise, not from sadness but from release, because she realized she had spent years protecting herself by not believing, and that protection had also kept joy away. And before fear could return she made a choice, stepping closer, taking his hand, not as a promise but as a moment, and Jack squeezed her hand gently, understanding the weight of that simple act. And the days that followed moved even faster, filled with shared routines, deeper talks, laughter that came easier, and Emily finally opened the message from her past, reading it calmly, realizing it no longer held power over her, because she was no longer the same person who had been hurt. And one snowy evening as Christmas approached, Jack showed up at her door again, this time without cookies, without a costume, just himself, asking if she wanted to spend the holiday together, not out of loneliness but choice. And Emily answered without hesitation, yes, and in that moment she understood part 3 of her story was not about falling suddenly or perfectly, but about choosing belief again, choosing connection, choosing to step forward even when fear whispered to step back. And as snow fell steadily outside and lights glowed softly, Emily knew she was no longer standing at the edge of hope, she was walking inside it, one honest step at a time. Christmas morning arrived faster than Emily expected, the days rushing by in a blur of lights, soft music, and shared moments that felt new yet familiar, and she woke early with a calm she had not felt in years, the kind that did not come from excitement alone but from quiet certainty. Because choosing to believe again had changed the rhythm of her life, and when she stepped outside that morning the street was covered in clean snow, the world hushed and bright, and Jack was already there, waiting by the sidewalk with 2 cups of coffee, smiling like this moment mattered, and they walked together without hurry, talking about nothing important and everything that felt real. And later they spent the day volunteering at the shelter, moving fast between rooms, helping where needed, sharing easy glances that spoke without words, and Emily noticed how natural it felt to stand beside him, not hiding, not guarding, just being present. And as the day went on she reflected on how fear had once shaped every decision she made, how she believed strength meant distance, but now she understood strength could also mean openness. And when the evening came and the neighborhood gathered for a small holiday event, Jack put on the Santa suit one last time, not for show but tradition, and Emily watched him from the crowd, seeing clearly how the costume never created the man but simply highlighted the kindness already there. and when he stepped down and joined her, removing the hat and handing it to a child nearby, Emily felt a deep sense of peace. Because the magic she once searched for in grand gestures had revealed itself in consistency, patience, and trust, and later that night as snow fell steadily and lights glowed softly from every window, Emily and Jack stood across the street where it had all begun, and she told him honestly that she had never believed dreams could come true because she thought they demanded perfection, and Jack answered simply that dreams survived by being shared, not idealized, and they stood there quietly. Hands linked, no rush, no promises spoken too loudly, just two people choosing to walk forward together, and Emily realized that love had not arrived suddenly or loudly but steadily, through moments she almost avoided, through courage she did not know she still had, and as the year came to a close she no longer feared what might be lost because she had learned what could be gained. And standing there beside Jack, under winter lights and falling snow, Emily understood that dreams did not come true the way stories once told her. They came true when she finally allowed herself to believe again, and this time, she was ready.